TNA is in the news, and we finally got the rating for the first show. We got the rating for the first show on AMC. Now, a lot of people were expecting TNA to hit 200,000 viewers, maybe even 300,000 viewers. Like, that's really where my estimate was in terms of this debut rating. But the rating that we got, I mean, they didn't even beat Collision. It's crazy. But TNA Impact's debut on AMC on January 15th, 2026. Think about this. Drew roughly around 173,000 viewers with a 0.04 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic. This marks a significant increase from their previous viewership on Access TV, which often fell below 100,000 in 2023. The show is rated TV-14 for violence and suggestive themes. 173,000 viewers. 173,000 viewers. They did not even beat Collision, and Collision does shitty ratings. Collision does very crappy ratings on a Saturday night because, let's be honest, nobody is watching AEW on a Saturday night. A weekly AEW show on a Saturday night, nobody's watching because it's either pay-per-view night or people are out. They honestly need to move Collision to a different night. But at this point, what night should you move Collision considering the fact that the entire week is occupied by other wrestling shows? Monday, you got Raw. Tuesday, you got NXT. Wednesday, you got Dynamite. Thursday, you got Impact. Friday, you got SmackDown. Where are you going to move Collision? Where are you going to move Collision? I don't know. But they really should move Collision to another night. I don't know how they would do it, but AEW is the type of company. I honestly believe that they probably purposely would move Collision on Thursday nights just to mess with TNA, which would be hilarious, but it is what it is. But what are my thoughts on this rating? Number one, the grifters look stupid. Number two, it completely proves my point that TNA is leagues below AEW as a promotion. They just are. And this is a company that has existed longer than AEW. AEW has accomplished more in 6 years than TNA has accomplished in 20. That's not me being a delusional fanboy or whatever you like to call it, a grifter. That's just me telling the truth. AEW has done more in 6 years than TNA has done in 20 plus years. They have. That's just the God's honest truth. That is the truth. That is the truth. And this number shows it. They probably had people tune out. You know how everybody mocks AEW, and rightfully so, about how the Big Bang Theory does higher ratings than Dynamite? Like, if you look at the quarter hours of Dynamite, like, all of the numbers, like, fall. Like, from segment to segment, like, just the audience dips. They probably dipped even further down when they were watching this TNA show. Honestly, I don't blame them. Because that first TNA show last week was 2 weeks ago was horrible. God awful. This rating proves my point that at the end of the day, TNA is leagues below AEW. And AEW is leagues above TNA. Now, what are my thoughts on the second edition of TNA Impact? TNA Impact is now a part of my weekly wrestling schedule. I'm going to be honest, I actually enjoyed the show. I did. I enjoyed the show for what it was. It was a not a very, very, very good show. Like, it still had the production issues, but you can tell they were trying to improve the production fiasco that was the first show. They definitely improved a lot from the first show. Like, if you compare the first show to the second show, they definitely improved drastically. Let's do a quick rundown of the card. We had Cedric Alexander defeating Moose. We had a very good Mike Santana promo, which was very good. I'm glad Mike Santana is at the top of the TNA food chain. We also had Indy Hartwell defeating M by Elegance, or Ash by Elegance, or M by Elegance. I don't even know all the members of Ash by Elegance or the Elegance brand, but, you know, Indy Hartwell defeated her opponent. We had the Feast or Fired match. Feast or Fired, a Vince Russo special in which we had Mance Warner, Hometown Man, Eric Young, Eddie Edwards, Brian Myers, Steve Macklin, Trey Miguel, Rich Swann, AJ Francis, Ryan Nemeth, Jason Hotch, and John Schuyler being a part of the match. The men that won the briefcases were Trey Miguel, Steve Macklin, Eric Young, and Eddie Edwards. TNA is going to be revealing the contents of the briefcase, and one person is going to get a pink slip next week on Impact. And some people are speculating that it's probably Steve Macklin, considering Steve Macklin is most likely on his way out of TNA. TNA is losing a lot of people left and right, and it's crazy. But a lot of people are saying Steve Macklin is probably going to be the one that's going to get, quote-unquote, fired in kayfabe. But in reality, I believe he's not going to be resigning with the company. So a lot of people are assuming that Steve Macklin could be the guy that gets fired next week on Impact. But those are the four men that won the briefcases in the Vince Russo special. Yes, and it is a Vince Russo special, the Feast or Fired match. Also, we got an Elena Black promo, a.k.a. Cora Jade. I could care less about that. Ariana Grace, who recently turned on her father, Santino Marella, a couple of weeks ago, all of a sudden apologized to Santino Marella. I could sense a swerve happening. We had Jeff Hardy defeating Mustafa Ali in a very, very, very good match. You know, that's the type of match that we should be seeing every week on Impact. Okay, matches like Jeff Hardy and Mustafa Ali. Great, great, great match, and Jeff Hardy ended up getting the win. And then we got the closing segment. Imagine this. The closing segment of this was a segment with the System. Personally, I would have done the System segment before the Jeff Hardy and Mustafa Ali match, but that's just me. But they introduced new members of the System, with Bear Bronson being the newest member of the System, in which basically we had Eddie Edwards, Bronson, and Brian Myers turn on Moose and JDC, a.k.a. Fandango. Cedric Alexander actually made the save, but he hits Moose with the chair, turning on Moose, and he is also the newest member of the System, which I'm not going to lie, I actually dug. I like the way that TNA did that. It was a very well played out segment, in my opinion. It was a pretty good segment, and I enjoyed it. But that was the closing segment of Impact. What are my thoughts on this show as a whole? For week 2, this was definitely a great improvement over the disaster that was the first Impact on AMC. Like this felt more like a debut on AMC than the debut on AMC actually was. Like, it was actually a really good show. I thoroughly enjoyed the majority of the show. Some of the stuff on the show was not great, but I mean, next week, we're going to be getting BDE versus Nick Nemeth. It's not a bad match. Not a bad match whatsoever. But overall, again, the show was not bad. Is it going to be like this every week? I have absolutely no idea, but we're going to have to wait and see. But in terms of that rating, I mean, they're probably going to be roughly around the 110,000 viewer range, or probably even less. We're going to have to wait and see, but that's really the ceiling that TNA is going to be hitting since now they're on a major network like AMC. But AMC is not real. AMC is a big network, but if you compare it to the level of like a TBS, TNT, or like even a USA network, like, it's not as big. But yeah, that was the rating for TNA Impact.